What's going on, everybody? My name is GiraffeAnatomy, and this is another Smite guide. Not a quick guide today. Today, we have something very specific and very special for you. So, I got a question on the Smite Dojo Discord server from one of its members. Basically, I'm not going to give their name or anything, but I'm going to sum up what they asked me to do to help them out, right? So, I basically got this message that said, hey, could you make a video of 4 or 5 of the must-have items on each lane, like starter, defense, offense, and other 2 or 3 optional ideas? I know it's hard work, but just a general list for newbies to know what they have to have in their queued items so they don't panic mid-game and looking for items, especially for me because I'm on Xbox. While doing that in-game, it's really hard for me to do. For example, if you're playing a warrior, build these 3, etc., or mage or hunter, and it depends on what lane you are, etc., right? So he's basically asking me this, right? That was the message that he sent me. He's basically asking me, hey, for a new player who is not very good at building and doesn't want to just use auto build, right? Which I would recommend, and we'll talk about that in a second. But if you're in the middle of a game and you are fighting and doing things and you back to fountain or you die and you're trying to look for what items to buy next, it can be overwhelming. When you're just starting out in Smite, item knowledge is probably one of the biggest learning curves that you'll get through, and once you play the game more and more, you will get through it and be much more proficient at it. But in the early stages, it can be hard, right? So what I'm going to do today is I am going to go over core items for each lane, right? It'll be a little bit longer video because of that, because I'm not going to break it down just a single lane. I'm going to go through each one, because I think I can get through it briefly. What I want to do is I'm going to show you what God Builder is in Smite, right? We're going to go over that. We're going to go over core items for each class, and then we're going to talk about auto build too, because auto build is good sometimes for newer players. You don't have to buy your own items, auto skill up, like those sorts of things. So we'll talk about all these little tips and tricks that can help out newer players. If you're just learning the game and you're just getting into it and you want to focus more on the play, you can do that. So even if you're in arena or joust or something like that, right? Still don't know what to buy, but you kind of want to just focus on the mechanics of the god, this will enable you to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you God Builder first. So I think everyone, once you learn a character or two and you become really comfortable with them and you know they're kind of a go-to character of yours, go into the God Builder and go to that god. So for me, Anubis was one of like the first characters I learned because he's very easy, right? He's like circle abilities. It's literally like a cone, a wrap, and a circle. It's and then his lighthouse, his ultimate, right? He's very easy and it was very simple. So I learned a lot of the game on him, just like the mechanics, like other roles, because I got good at his kit first, right? So if you get a god that you know that you are comfortable with, go down into this section. So right, so go to gods, right? Pick the god that you want. Go to God Builder, and in here you will see that you can put in items, right? So normally it'll look like standard or like arena, like it'll give you kind of these builds if you don't fill anything out. But if you do a custom build on him, all these would be blank for you. This enables you to basically have this on the forefront. So when you open your store, when you press your store, so it's normally inventory I on keyboard. I've changed mine to T because I use like a half keyboard, so it's easier for me to reach and stuff. But whatever you do, when you open up your store, it will show you your custom one and not whatever the recommended ones or standard ones are, right? So what you can do is you can go into here and you can fill out core items. And what I would recommend is if you're in Smite, I would recommend playing maybe 2 gods per role and getting really good at that first. So say you're like, hey, I want to learn mid. What I would do is out of all the mages in Smite, so mages are normally played in mid, I'd go to mage. Then what I would do is I would pick 2 of these and I would just learn them inside and out. So I think 2 of the easiest gods to start with in Smite, Kukulkan. His abilities are also very easy. He has a tornado that is like a big ass circle. It's hard to miss it. He has a one that it like will hit multiple enemies when you hit him with it, right? And then his 2 is like a runaway escape, and his ultimate is like a big fat line. So he's very easy to learn mechanics wise, right? So you could pick Kukulkan. Other recommended ones for just starting out and just learning, I would recommend things like I said, Anubis, pretty easy to learn. Agni's pretty easy to pick up, and he's pretty good, right? He's like always a decent god. You can do things like Vulcan, Ra, Poseidon. Like these ones are, I think, a little better for newer players, right? It takes not like less skill, but their kits are just simpler, right? They're big circles. They're big. They're not hard to understand, right? So pick 2, right? Doesn't have to be those ones that I just recommended, but just pick 2, right? If you like Baron, go for Baron. Like learn Baron and learn Kukulkan or something, right? Pick 2 gods, and what I would do is for those 2 gods, I would look up specific builds on like pro Smite builds or Smite Guru and look at like what master players are building, because the builds change, right? So this person asked like, hey, what are some core items? Well, the problem is core items change all the time in Smite. Every patch, an item can become meta and then fall out of meta. So you need to stay up to date. So what I would do is I would learn 2 gods in each role. So in mid, you learn 2. If you're in solo, you learn 2. And then once you learn those gods inside and out, and you learn some specific builds for them, then you can learn the role with those gods. So you can play mid, and you can feel comfortable in it, and then you can know like, oh, this is when I should be rotating. This is when I should be farming this. This is when I should go get this camp and that camp. You're not worried about the mechanics, while also worried about like learning what mid it does, like how it feels to play mid, all those things, right? In Conquest specifically, right? I think Arena and Joust are the best areas to learn the mechanics of gods before you take them into Conquest, right? If you're just learning mechanics, play a couple Arena games with them. Learn what their abilities do, how they feel, how it feels to hit them, what the ranges feel like. You'll get into like fighting situations and stuff a lot easier in Arena, so it quickly builds like the team fight reflexes that you'll need in Conquest when the team fights eventually happen, right? So once you do that, then you can take them into Conquest and learn about the roles and stuff. So what I would do is, like I said, if you're Kukulkan, go into God Builder and then build things for them, because what is meta on one god is not going to be meta on another. Like you will eventually get into a Kukulkan, his passive, right? His passive is Power of the Wind Jewel increases magical power by 4% of maximum mana. This means that certain items on him are better than others. He loves building Book of Thoth because of what it does. The passive of Book of Thoth, not Polynomicon, Book of Thoth. Oh my gosh, I don't know why. Not coming up here. The passive on this, Book of Thoth, you permanently gain 10 mana per stack and receive 5 stacks for a god kill, right? 7% of your mana from items is converted to magical power. So when Book of Thoth is built, you get like 1,000 mana. That 1,000 mana is converted to power with the passive of Book of Thoth, and then it's converted again through Kukulkan's passive. 4% of mana becomes power for him. So for him, he likes building Book of Thoth, and then Polynomicon and Soul Reaver. Why? Because these are all incredibly high mana. Each one of these has like a ton of mana on them, so they're high mana magical items that synergize with his kit very well. So something like this, you'd build on Kukulkan, but you wouldn't be building like Book of Thoth, Polynomicon, and Soul Reaver on most other mages right now, right? Most other mages like a quick like cooldown and pen right off the bat. So you'll be building things like Chronos Pendant and then like Cowron's Coin or something like that, right? Or like a flat pen item. So you'll build like Chronos Pendant and then like a Spear of Desolation and then like a Rod of Tahuti or something like that, right? So you have some flat pen, you have some percentage pen, then you have, your cooldown stuff. So they'll build different types of items. So it's hard to just say, hey, again, I know this is a question, a very long way to answer this person's question, but he's like, hey, what are some core items for a role? Well, it's really hard to do that. So what I would do is I would learn 2 gods and then pick apart those 2 gods specifically and learn what to build on them to feel more comfortable, right? That being said, I will give for each role 4 items you should always have in custom, just in case, right? So, since I talked about mid, we'll start with mid first. Then we'll go into, we'll do like solo. Then we'll go into ADC, support, blah, 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 right? So really quick, just for a quick gist of it, I'll use God Builder to show you guys what to do. But for mid, not for Kukulkan specifically, right? Just for any mid. What you want to do is with your starter items, you're normally going to go Sands of Time or Conduit Gem. Those are going to be your 2 main starters as a mid lane. Pick one. Conduit Gem, I find, is better on like certain gods that have a really big ability to cast, right? Because you basically stack it, and then once it's stacked, it removes all the stacks and does true damage to that person, right? For the stacks on it. So what you want to do is Conduit Gem is for people like Scylla works well with Conduit Gem because of her Crusher. She procs it really good if you pay attention to the Conduit Gem and the way it's stacking, and then you throw out a Crusher, right? You'll deal that additional damage to somebody, right? If you're very mana hungry or you want cooldown, Sands of Time is the way to go, which I have to type it in. Sands of Time is the way to go for if you're very mana hungry, if you find yourself running out of mana, and then if you want to build other stuff that's not going to be cooldown, right? Because then you can upgrade to Pendulum, and this is 20%. Between this and Chronos Pendant, you'll have 40% right away, right? So you basically build this first. That's 10% cooldown. Build a Chronos Pendant. You now have 30% cooldown with just your first item and your starter. Then at the end, once you reach level 20, upgrade to Pendulum of Ages. You're good to go, right? When it comes to cooldown. So this is for more mana hungry because it has a little bit more sustain. If you're like casting out abilities a lot of the times, I like to go Sands of Time on Kukulkan just because I build all the books. None of the books have cooldown on it. So I'm trying to get some cooldown early with him with Sands of Time, right? But yeah, that's basically when you do either of these two. And then what you want to do is if you notice that the other enemy mid or team in general has healing, get Divine Ruin next. This is going to be your next item that you build. So you'll normally do like a Sands of Time, and Divine Ruin is a pretty good rush. It gives you flat pen, gives you some power, and it's cheap. You'll hit Divine Ruin a little bit before most other items people build. If you don't think that anti-heal is necessary right away, build Chronos Pendant. Right off the bat, it's pretty good on most mages. It'll give you your cooldown, plus its passive is ticking time off of your abilities constantly. So Chronos Pendant is good. So your first couple items is going to be basically like Sands of Time, Chronos Pendant, or Conduit Gem, Chronos Pendant, or it's going to be either of those and Divine Ruin, right? After that, what I would recommend is, and let me do this actually, because the God Builder is wonky. I'm going to go into Jungle Practice. I'm just going to pick a mage so you can see what I'm talking about. And I'll just pick Anubis. Doesn't matter. So we'll do this for the mid lanes, and then I guess we'll do support, because not support. Yeah, I think I could do support, some support items with him too, because most guardians are magical as well. But I'll do this for mid lane first, right? So in mid lane, when you're in the store, basically what you want to do is get either Sands of Time or Conduit Gem, right? And I'm going to show you what a build looks like here. So you'd get this Chronos Pendant with this item. Now this third item can be either a combination. If you have a lifesteal god, get lifesteal like Bancroft's Talon, right? Obviously with Anubis, he's a little bit different too, right? Like I said before, I'm giving you a general mid build, but there are certain gods you really want to look into because you kind of build each god separately, right? Anubis is going to build a little different than Kukulkan does, right? Their builds will not start the same. Anubis literally doesn't build a starter. He'll go Bancroft's Talon first. and then he'll go Typhon's Fang. This is a good start for Anubis. Whereas Cool Khan will literally build. Oh my god, I'm typing in Cool Khan. Cool Khan will build like I said before, like a Sands of Time, the Book of Thoth, and then he'll go into like Holly, and then a Soul Reaver, and then he'll need Pen, right? So his start looks like this, whereas Anubis' start will do this, right? So it's like totally different. It's hard to just say like, hey, in mid, build this, right? But I am giving you a kind of a general build path, right? So the core items on mids: build Sands of Time Condo Gem, build a Chronos Pendant, build some lifesteal. Bancrofts is normally like pretty decent on most. It gives you power, gives you some lifesteal, stuff like that. And then you can build some more cooldown and flat pen with something like these. One of these two is fine. Then you're going to want to go into percentage pen, right? So you normally want your percentage pen around like your third or fourth item right here, because you're going to start facing tanks that have built some defense to them. So either of these, you can build something like a Chiron's Coin, right? Or you can build Obsidian Shard. And you want to get your pen online sooner rather than later, and at least have 20% by here, hopefully 30 or 40% by your last item, so you can shred those tanks. So if you're building, let's do this. Chronos Pendant. Where you at, dog? There we go. And say I built Bancroft's Talon, right? I need percentage pen here at this point. So I could look at something like a Chiron's Coin or an Obsidian Shard, right? Depending on who I am. Chiron's Coin is good because it'll give you some movement speed. It's good on certain gods to like kind of get away, and the 20% magical power. You do need to stack it. So build it earlier rather than later. You don't need it. You don't want it like down here. You normally want it like sometimes second or third, right? But fourth is fine as well. If you don't do this, 100% get an Obsidian Shard here. Then a Rod Tahuti to add on to that, right? If you do Rod, 10% magical power. You normally want Rod, one of these two sections, but you can do it earlier rather than later. You will have 30% magical pen with this. Plus you have your cooldown. Plus you have Bancroft's Talon, right? And because you're going to upgrade to Pendulum Ages, right? Sometimes at the end here, you hit level 20 before you get your last item. It's better to upgrade Sands of Time to Pendulum Ages first, so you have that full cooldown, plus the 90 power that it gives you. And then on your last item, it'll be flavorful. If you're still having trouble with tanks for some reason, you can do something like Soul Reaver. If you want to add into Bancroft's Talon, you can get something like Typhon's Fang. You get Typhon's Fang when you have another magical lifesteal item most of the time. And then it's giving you 10% pen, plus this is giving you 10% pen, plus this is giving you 20. You have your full 40% pen with a build like this. You will be doing some lifesteal with these two items, right? If you notice they aren't building anti-heal here, you might be able to do Typhons here and then Rod Tahuti last, right? So either one of these, like in either order, they can be flipped kind of here. But yeah. So this is pretty good. I would say this is a pretty like general build, and it doesn't always have to be these specific items. This will just do damage, right? Like you'll still do damage even as Anubis. You'll do damage to people with stuff like this, with a build like this. Even though for me, Anubis, I think he does better with things like maybe like Soul Reaver and maybe taking out the Chronos Pendant's good, but I wouldn't get the starter on him. You start like Bancrofts and then Typhons, and then you go into cooldown, and then you'll build like the Obsidian Shard and the Rod Tahuti, so the order's a little different, right? But on most mages, something like this would be fine. Like you'll be okay. It's not too complex. So let's talk about Guardians then. So real quick, so this is Guardians. This is if you are a support player. You're basically choosing between Sentinel's Gift and Benevolence most of the time, right? So if you don't know what you're doing and you find it hard to farm as a support, pick Sentinel's Gift. Can't go wrong with it. And understand what its passive is. Sentinel's Gift's passive is getting assists for any enemy minion or jungle monster dying will provide 8 bonus gold, restore your health, restore your mana. You're not within 30 units of an allied god for 20 seconds. This passive is disabled until you're near an allied god again. So all you're doing with Sentinel's Gift, stay near a teammate of yours, sit there in their wave, and take farm. Like, that's all you do. You don't kill the minions. You let your teammates kill the minions for you. So you're basically sitting there and you're having them clear the wave for you, right? So go into you're in duo lane early. You let your duo lane clear it. You don't want to clear it because you don't get the bonus if you let them clear it. And I'm not near an ally, right? So you need to be near an ally for it to take effect. It's not going to work if you're off by yourself. So the way this takes effect is if you're near an ally here, you can see Sentinel's Gift right here is working because you have the buff, right? And now it's like, hey, you're kind of far away from them, so it's counting down. Oh, come on. Get out of here. I changed teams so it doesn't know. Right? So it will give me the bonus gold if I get the assist on these. Let me see if I can get near them again. Okay. So you need to be this close. Like, see these own bots? They're my friends. You need to be this close, right? And that's how you're going to get the XP and the bonus gold and stuff. You want to have this active. And because these are now my allies, because I changed teams, I'm getting, see that extra bonus gold there? That's its passive kicking in, right? 8 bonus gold. This is how you farm. This is how you get your extra items and stuff like that. So just sit there in lane, take up the extra gold from the assists, right? This is how you're going to farm most of the time. If you want to use benevolence, if you do benevolence, you basically are going into compassion late game, right? You basically do this, get this as the upgraded item. It's a pretty good item. Right, compassion's actually like very good as a support player, and then benevolence, to stack it, you need to not be near enemies, and you're stacking it while you're not near them, and then you go into a lane with them, and you'll heal your teammates back up with it. But Sentinel's Gift is the simpler one. You basically want to upgrade into Sentinel's Embrace late. So as a support, it's pretty. I mean, the support you can do pretty cut and dry, right? You're going to get Gauntlet of Thebes first. Then you have an option of Pridwin right after that to get 20% cooldown. Or if they actually like do have a lot, I like building Breastplate sometimes, but Pridwin is good. And then after this, you're either going to get a Breastplate of Valor if they're like jungle or somebody is like really tearing it up, or somebody physical is, or like a Genji's Guard, right, for cooldown and magical protection. If you're in the middle lane, you're with their support and their mage, and you're fighting them most of the time, Genji's Guard would be good because this is going to give you cooldown and health. Pridwin also gives you cooldown. So with these items, you can't really go wrong. You sometimes need to buy anti-heal at this point though. So a Pestilence is always okay if the solo doesn't have it, or somebody else, but normally buying anti-heal isn't a bad thing. It will help your team out, right? So you could do something like this to start off with, or something like Genji's Guard if you don't need the anti-heal right away, right? And if you do something like this, you're going to want some sort of physical defense item at this point as well. And then realize you want to try and get some cooldown, and you want to also try and with support, health, protections, and cooldown are like your friend, right? So this is a normal start on this. Pestilence is magical, so go something with physical defense at this point. Like I said before, I don't mind like a breastplate or something, and then you have a full 20% cooldown, and you can get something else later. Or if you want to be optimal, you can do something like a Spirit Robe here, which is 10% cooldown plus some mitigations, right? So either this or this, Mantle Discord, but I recommend Spirit Robe pretty heavily right now. You get crowd control reduction, you're getting mitigations, all that stuff. And then you can build one more item at the end here that is like flavor. Like I like Witchblade a lot because there's a lot of good auto attack gods right now. You can build this at the very end. You have full cooldown. You have a lot of protections with a fully built Gauntlet of Thebes. I'll show you the item stack here. Right. And you're a little weak on the physical defense side, right? So situationally in a game, if they are critting a lot or something, you would want Spectral here, right? Something that'll negate the crits. And this will even it out a little bit more. Like I said before, if you don't need the anti-heal, you could do something like Genji's here, and then Spirit Robe. And then just with these two, you'll have your full cooldown. So your last item can be something else that doesn't have cooldown, right? When it comes to defensive items. Where is... There we go. Like something... I mean, Mail Renewal, you'd go like a little earlier, but Hide Urchin isn't bad, like as an item. If you want more, like I said, physical defense, because you don't have any too much like right now, right? With something like this, you could build things like Midgardian Mail if you want more physical defense, and then they're still auto attacking, right? If you didn't want to get the Witchblade, Midgardian Mail is fine. Hide of the Nemean will make you like super tanky. Be able to tank like auto attack hunters late game pretty easily, and you're basically seeing at 270, right? Without upgraded Sentinel's Embrace, you're basically like capped with the Sentinel's Embrace at this point. You basically have full protections on either side, right? You're like right at that limit there, right? So 30 from 278, 270, you're overcapping by like a few protections, but you basically have full protections with a build like this. You're going to be fine, right? With something like this. If you don't want to get Genji's Guard here, you could get Oni's Hunters, also a good item. If you want to help your teammate do attack, you can do like a Shogun's Kurosai, something like that. But build like this, you can't really go wrong with something like this, right? For support characters. Now let's get into, I have to return to the lobby. We'll get into solo lane, and we'll get into I'll pick a warrior because they have access to more stuff. So let's talk solo lane first, then we'll talk ADC, then we'll talk jungle. I'll pick Achilles. Solo lane builds, you kind of want to build a combination of like damage and defense, right? When it comes down to it, once again, it's like the more I do this, the more I realize like it's going to be different for each god, right? I can't emphasize enough. Pick like 2 gods for each role. Learn those gods and what to build on those gods specifically for those roles. It's really hard to just say, hey, here's a blanket build period for a role, right? That's really not how it will work. But I understand at lower levels, and when you're like brand new to the game, that is like a way to think, right? So in general, for solo, you're going to get any of these starter items, right? If you're ability based, get a Bluestone. If you're in doubt, get a Warrior's Axe or a Warding Sigil, right? If you know you can use your abilities very well, get that. You can use any of these 3. If you are in doubt, just get Warrior's Axe and then go into Sundering Axe late game, right? Pretty good. And it's basically like the same thing, like beefed up. After this, you normally want to start some form of like a Glad Shield or a Berserker Shield. If you're auto attack, you're going to go Berserker Shield. If you are ability based, go Glad Shield, right? With your first item. Because you're normally versing another physical god in solo. If you know that the god you're versing is a physical god, get Glad Shield first. If they are not, You can start with something like a Shogun's if you're auto attack, or a Genji's if you're not, right? You could start Genji's guard instead of Glad Shield. Because you're versing a magical, so if you're versing like an Ardeo or a Cthulhu or somebody in solo lane, get this first. And then you normally want defense first because you scale well with it. And then you can get the Glad Shield, right, afterwards. So you get it like second. But either way, you normally want to get Glad Shield earlier rather than later, right? With the way it scales, it gives you cooldown. Basically, it's going to help you when you build full defense to still be able to do damage, the way its passive works, right? So I'll do the more traditional one real quick. We're going to get Glad Shield first. If they are still... if you're still in lane and you're doing well with Glad, you could get something like a Void Shield as well. And then you're going to, by this time, at least get something magical defense here. So like the Genjis, right? And then you can start building a little bit, if you want, offensively on this side, right? The shields are very good. If you're versing another physical, right, getting 2 physical defense items first is good. And then going into like a Genji's guard, because you're going to start rotating the mid lane. Use something like that. And then like you could get something like a Soul Eater. You could actually get Soul Eater like second item if you want on people like Achilles or Cleo or people like that. But towards the end here, you could grab something like a Heart Seeker, right? And so you still do a lot of damage, and then you could get something like Spirit Robe to cap it off at the end, right? So this is like a pretty solid solo lane build. You're still tanky. You're still able to dish out damage, right, to people. Look at all those procs, man. You're still able to, you know, do damage. You saw all those extra numbers. That's Glad Shield procking. That's like, that's Glad Shield. That's the Warrior's Axe, Glad Shield, and then like Heart Seeker all procking at once, right? So you will still do damage with this. The reason you see 2 of these is because when you're doing the shields, the physical protection is only 40, whereas something like Genji's, it's 70, right? So it's like almost half of like what Genji's is. So if you have 2 physical shields between 35 and the 40, you're going to have more protections, right? And then with this, you're going to get some protections. And then Genji's is covering most of your magical ones. Spirit Robe, you have even, right? So with something like this, you're able to do some solid damage. You're still tanky. You have health. Like this is like a solo build, right? So you can't really go wrong with something like this when you're ability based, right? Because Heartseeker's for abilities, Glad's for abilities. You know, these all proc off of abilities very well. If you are auto attack based, sorry, hold on. If you're auto attack based and you're playing solo lane, you're probably going to get Death's Toll first. So think of Amaterasu. If I'm playing Amaterasu right now, get a Death's Toll, get the Berserker Shield, right? And at this point, you can either go Frostbound, and then into Shogun's, or Shogun's Frostbound. Either way it works, right? If you aren't rotating yet, you can wait on it and get Shogun's afterwards. You are going to rotate mid early, get the Shogun's here, so you have the defense against the mid laner. This is a pretty good start for any auto-attacking solo laner. And then towards the end here, you can kind of figure out what you need. If you need more physical defense, right? It depends. If you're ahead, you can get something like a kin size right here, right? If you're really ahead, you're dominating people, get a kin size here. If you are not or haven't done that yet and you still need help when it comes to like defense, or you're still kind of like wonky on it, you can get something like Mystical Mail might be okay. Even the Void Shield is still pretty good at this point. Something like Mail Renewal, like some sort of physical defense item. I mean, hell, you could probably even get Sovereignty if your support doesn't have it yet. If you need anti-heal, You could get Contagion, right? If they're crit, see crit on the other team, get something like Spectral, right? And then after this, now that you have the physical defense that you need, you can go into the last item, like something like Kins, right? If you still want to do some damage, right? So this is for auto attackers. This will basically help you attack fast, still sustain through that. See how fast I'm auto attacking, but I'm still like really beefy with something like this. You'll still be able to use your abilities and things like that. But yeah, Frostbound slows them down, right? So you can stick to them and keep auto attacking, and they're at a speed that you can keep up with. That's the purpose of that, right? Shogun's helps you with your auto attacks. Berserker Shields help you with your auto attacks, all that stuff. If for some reason you can't go Kins because you still need to build tank gear, at the end, normally I would say go Death's Embrace at the end here when you have the Kins. If you can't, you can do like something like Death's Temper. It'll give you that attack speed you're missing from like Kins. And it'll give you that basic attack damage that you want with the stacks of Temper, right? So some build like this, you'll shred with this and still be like pretty tanky with something like this as well, right? So just remember, fill this slot with whatever you're missing. In this instance, having a little bit more physical defense is nice because you're going to be versing like ADCs that hit hard at this point in the game. When you're building this, most of the time they're building crit, so Spectral is probably like up there, if not Spectral. Like a Nemean, if they have anti-heal and you want to apply it, you could build either Toxic Blade here as well, right, or Contagion. Toxic Blade actually wouldn't be too bad right here, and then you could get Death's Embrace instead, right? Death's Embrace, once you completely upgrade it, you get the Toxic Blade here because it gives you the health, it does anti-heal, and then something like a Kins or more defense, right? If you need a shadow, or if you need the anti-crit still, you could still get like a Spectral here, right? It will make you beefier late game for sure with a build like this. So yeah, that's a pretty solid build when it comes to solo laners, physical solo laners at least. When it comes to Guardian solo laners, that's kind of another story. Probably should have done that when I was Anubis, but I will do the ADCs right now for you first, and then we'll go into jungles too. So ADC, basically like a very simple build for ADC is like, you can't go wrong with Hunter's Cow or Death's Toll. Pick one of these two. Either of them is fine. A lot of people are going Hunter's Cow right now, right? So they'll build this like late game. So you're fine with this. I like Death's Toll because of the sustain. It's a little bit better for me. But a lot of hunters will build Transcendence into either Executioner or Kins like right away, right? This is starting to be very common right now, and these builds change a lot of the time. But I personally, instead of doing that right away, I like to go, if I'm building Transcendence, Aussie. So there's two types of hunter builds. One is like more ability based, more powerful, and that's the Transcendence builds. If you build Transcendence, get Aussie right away for your lifesteal to go with Leather Cow, right? And if you do the Transcendence, you're basically at this point, you'll probably get Executioner at this point to get some pen online, right? And you can upgrade that to Ferocious if you want. After something like this, you can get the Kins. People will have health and things online by this point. And then you can top it off with something like, if you want even more pen, a Silver Branch Bow would be fine. Just for the stats itself. If you don't want to do something like Silver Branch, you can get a Dominance instead. That wouldn't be too bad here either. You're going to get some extra pen with something like this. You're going to not attack as fast, right? With a build like this, you have 1.95 attack speed. It's not as much, but it's chunkier. Like, you will hit harder. Let me item stack real quick so you can see. Transcendence, lots of power. You get some cooldown. You're kind of good to go. If you do the Silver Branch, you'll still get that pen, but you'll be attacking faster for sure. And yeah, this is basically like the tank shredding build that you'll build right now. A lot of people are doing some sort of variation of this, like whatever this is. If you don't want to do silver branch bow, you can still build like Odysseus bow or something at the end. They'll probably be fine with a build like this too. But I personally like the auto attack build, which is you can still build Hunter's Cow, but you can also do like a Death's Toll, and then you automatically go into Atalanta's bow, and then Aussie, right? So this is your sustain with these 3 items. You will heal a lot from Atalanta's bow and Aussie right here, and then you'll build Wind Demon, and then you want Silver Branch. Normally you want to try and get the crit online so it's more reliably hittable here, but you can do a hit or miss. So if you want to put Wind Demon here and put more pen early, you can do that. Either way, you want to build these 2 here somewhere. So either Aussie Silver Branch or Wind Demon Silver Branch, right? Either order is fine. And then at the end here, just keep capping it with attack speed of some sort. You can put in all kinds of flavors. Kins is fine. Executioner is fine. Either of those will do well at the end here. And then you'll upgrade this to Temper at the end to get even more attack speed. And at this point, you'll be overcapping on Silver Branch Bow. And hopefully, I would say, you are playing a ADC that has an auto attack speed stim. So it increases their auto attack speed. And if you do that, Silver Branch Bow will be giving you its passive, which is higher stacks. So this is a basic, those are kind of 2 basic builds when it comes to ADCs. And then now we'll talk about jungling real quick. For junglers, what we're going to do is, if you're ability based jungler, you're going to start with Bumba's Dagger and eventually upgrade to Bumba's Hammer. Sometimes Spear is good for certain gods, but this is pretty standard right now. Spear gives penetration plus more physical power in general. But for your abilities, if you're ability based jungler, so like if Achilles was jungling, right, because he has really good abilities, I would be doing Bumba's Hammer late game. And then normally, like I said, this is going to be the ability based one. You get Jotuns after this. You can go Transcendence too, or Jotuns here. I like to kind of do like a Jotuns and then a Hydra's build first. This gives you a lot of cooldown. So not only do you have Bumba's Dagger here you're starting with, you get 20% cooldown with this. Another 10% here, so you're already at 30% cooldown. You're starting to get some pen online, right? And then I will normally get Serrated Edge just for the stats alone, another 20% physical pen. So with this, you have 20% physical pen here, 10% physical pen, so you already have 30 pen, 4 items in. You also have 30 cooldown, like the first 2 items in, right? So with something like this, very good start. Then you can get something like a Heart Seeker. And then at the end here, it's going to be flavor again. Blood Forge isn't too bad because you're normally jumping in, trying to kill somebody right away at the end of a team fight. You can do that. If you went Transcendence instead of Hydra here, that would basically fill up your build. You'd get like a Transcendence either here or here, and then you do the same thing, right? So if you put a Transcendence here, you build everything else out of that. If you put the Transcendence here, you would just build the Hydra's Serrated, then this Heartseeker there. But you don't build Transcendence last. If you already went something like this, you could do something like Dominance if you want more pen with autos. I would probably opt for something like Blood Forge, or I mean, you can even get like a Crusher if you're doing ability-based damage stuff. If you want to forego this, and you're kind of okay on this, you could get a Soul Eater somewhere in here, and then you could get the Serrated Edge here, and then the Heartseeker. But with this, you're getting more physical pen as well, and you're going to do some lifesteal with it too. So with this, you have some pen. With this, you have some pen. Now you're capped at 40% pen with like a build like this. You could, if you're doing okay with this, do the Heart Seeker first, and then like a serrated at the very end. I normally like to have serrated like more up at the front, but something like this will be fine. These are kind of core items you build on the ability-based hunters. Can't really go wrong with something like this, and then you'll upgrade to Bumba's Hammer later, right? So you basically, with a build like this, have full cooldown, you have full penetration, very good, right? If you're doing more attack speed based, like Nemesis or I don't know, like Nemesis and Mercury, two auto attack junglers, you build them totally different most of the time. But normally you're going to start with Eye of the Jungle if you're auto attack based, right? Start with the Eye. You start with Golden Blade almost all auto attack junglers. And then after Golden Blade, you can go serrated, right? And then from here, you have a choice to either build crit or build just like tank shred, right? So you already have 20% physical pen at this point. This is for farming. This is for that. Some like Hasten Katana, I normally forego it because it's really only useful for like keeping up with people. But if you in position right, you normally don't have to use it. So if that's the case, I will go something like you can do like an Atlanta's Wind Demon here if you want to do crit, and then a Kins at the end, or you can do your whole Executioner stuff with Ferocious, then do Kins. With this, you have enough pen between these two items. Kins will shred people. And then at the end here, you can do something like you can always throw a Wind Demon in just to get that random crit for its passive and stuff like that. If you don't want to do that, you could do like Silver Branch is going to give you more pen, but you really don't build that on those. You do something like the throw an Iqbal at the end there, throw an Atalanta's Bow at the end there. There's probably normally what I do is this. Honestly, if I was building something like this, I get Wind Demon, and then late game I'd sell this, and I'd either get Atalanta's Bow here, or I would get rid of this, and you can do like a Deathbringer, and just with these two items, you're doing pretty well. And by this time, this is upgraded anyway. You're still attacking like really, really fast with something like this, but you kind of got that like crit on the end, and when you crit, it's like you crit real hard because of Deathbringer. Yeah, look at those guys. That's crazy. But yeah, but if you don't do Deathbringer, you are truly trying to just cap out the auto attack stuff. Build Atalanta's Bow here, and you will be solid. Stats, lifesteal, like all that stuff works like pretty well, and you're trying to replace the attack speed that you lost with Golden Blade, right? 20% attack speed. This will replace it, so it's still like the same. You're not like losing attack speed that you just had. So you're able to still attack like pretty fast, still crit, still do a lot of damage. Oh, do I got a spot? Man, I ain't even playing with anybody right now. So those are the basics of every role that you want to build, right? I know this is a long video. It's already 50 minutes. One last thing I'll show you real quick is if you do like a solo Guardian. So let's do like Cerberus can be played in solo lane pretty easily. Give him something cool, bro. Look at that. No, I don't like his neck on there. This one's the best. Oi, long videos, dude. I like how I get a question from somebody, and I take an hour to answer his question. I might have a problem. I do have a problem. Um, so as a solo laner guardian, some solo laner guardians work with Vampire Shroud very well. Cerberus would work well with this. RDO, anybody that has like healing in their kit, this would work pretty well. So you can start Vampire Shroud. If not, you could start something like a Tainted or a Warrior's Axe. Warrior's Axe obviously is the basically like most default thing you can do. So do like a Warrior's Axe start if you're unsure, but you could do a Tainted Steel, Vampire Shroud, or I've seen some get Conduit Gem for like clear and stuff like that in farm, right? So either of those would be fine. You do have some more offensive options like this, and then you're still doing something similar in solo lane, right? You don't have the option of the shields because you're a guardian, so you have to find different ways to like find that advantage. Stone of Binding has fallen off a lot. Sometimes I used to say, especially with like Cerberus, you can get like a Stone of Binding early because it's only like 1700. You get really fast. But you can start something like Voidstone, right? With these guys, a Voidstone would be fine. If you're versing another magical, like another magical guardian or something like that, right? If not, get physical defense first, just like you would before. You're normally going to be mana hungry, so you could get something like Breastplate first, like you're fine. Or Mail of Renewal has made a comeback. You could get this first, and like be all right with it and sustain with it in lane, and then start going into your other builds. But the things that solo guardians have over others is like Voidstone is an item that they have that others can't utilize. Ethereal Staff, like these types of items will make you like tanky but also still do damage, right? So things like this, I've also seen like the Warlock Staff rush lately. So you would do this Warrior's Axe and like Warlock Staff, and then you would basically just try and farm up and get Warlock Staff online as soon as possible. It makes you tanky, and then you go into things like maybe still need physical defense, right? You wouldn't go Void right away unless you're versing another magical solo, but you could do something like this, and then you could do like your Breastplate of Valor, and then you could do like if you needed like a Genji's Guard, and then you could do your Ethereal Staff, and then your Spirit Robe. Something like this will make you like super tanky and still be able to do some damage between these two items, right? If you don't want to go Ethereal Staff or even like this much damage, you can replace things with like Spear of Magus is good to still like if you want to be more damage dealing, and stuff like that as a solo laner, this is fine. If you're versing another like healer like Chang'e or something, you can always throw in a Divine Ruin somewhere in there and be fine with it as well. But yeah, with this you have enough cooldown, you have enough defense, and like I said, Spirit Robe if you want to stay tanky, Spear Magus if you want to do more damage and help your team do more damage because it's 7.5% increased damage from all sources when you do stuff with them. So like a build like this, not too bad. Yeah, still able to do some damage to them. Still tanky. Pretty solid build right now. So that is about it for this video. Thanks guys for watching. I hope this helped explain some things, but at the end of all this, even though I went through and did all that, just remember each god is different. Each god is unique. So TLDR, right? It's 54 minutes into this video. Too long, didn't read. Too long, didn't watch. Whatever it is. Know the god you're playing. And if it's daunting for you to know too many gods, pick 1 or 2 per role that you want to learn. Learn how to build them specifically and good build orders for them. So that will help you more than just like what's a general thing that fits everybody. Smite really isn't about that. If you want to get better at the game, learn gods intricately. It will take time. It will be daunting. It will take a lot of experience and doing things over and over again. But learning a god specifically, like I could go through each god, I could go through 2 mages and build them completely differently just because of their kits and their abilities. I'm going to build Anubis differently than I build Vulcan, differently than I build Chang'e, differently than I build Discordia. Like, I literally would build all of them different in mid. Like, Chang'e likes lifesteal and cooldown. Anubis likes lifesteal. Vulcan likes movement speed. He works with like Chiron coin and Doom Orb really well. So you'll build like those with like the conduit gem, and then you upgrade it to gem of focus. Yanis is built a little bit different, right? Like they're all built a little differently. Kukulkan, I build the books on him, right? So pick a god or two, learn them inside and out, and learn what works best for them, and maybe tweak those little builds. And then over time, you will learn like kind of what to build and those kind of items, right? So I hope I gave you good general build advice for each lane, right? Like some very simple default builds. But the entire time I was doing this video, I was literally thinking like, well, if this scenario popped up, I'd change this. Oh, if this did this, I'd do this. Oh, if it's right, it's like it all becomes situational. And that's like the most fun thing about Smite, right? It's always changing. It's never the same. I could never give you a build that is just this, right? It's like, oh, do this and you're fine. Like, sure, there are some default things that'll work in most games. And when you're first starting out, it'll help you out for sure. But in the end, you're going to want to learn each god intricately, know matchups, know the ins and outs, what you're good against, what you're bad against, know your strengths, your weaknesses. You know, you're going to verse gods that your god does really well into, and you're going to verse gods where your god gets kind of crapped on them, just the way the kits work, right? There's advantages and disadvantages all across the board. So go into God Builder, go into those specific gods, set up a build that's easy for you to find and reach. Put in like most of like the solid items in like an order that you'd like to do. Like I said before with Anubis, I'm building this. It's either this or Chronos Pendant at this point, then like a Rod Tahuti, and then I normally do something like a Soul Reaver, or, and I don't know why it's not here, like a Soul Reaver or a Sitting Shot, right? So this is kind of like the order I'd build it in anyway, and then I have my little flavor things that I want. If I want to build a Pythags, I'm gonna do it. If I'm dumb, I'm gonna build a Polynomicon, right? It's like all these things, right? This is where like I could normally access everything I wanted right out of here with this kind of stuff, right? So yeah, do that for each god. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have an idea for a video that you want me to do, feel free to ask. Also, if you want a time limit on that video, please let me know. I will try and sum it down as short as possible. This is literally an hour-long video for a question somebody asked me. So if you have something you're like, hey, can you explain this in less than 10 minutes? I can do that for you, or at least I'll try, right? So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. I'll talk to you later.